And here we are. We are now live at the Hive again. The lost episode last week. Funny story. Literally last week, as we were about to. Oh wait. Oh. Last week, as we were about to go live, literally had the mouse over the start stream button. All the power went out, and it was just our breaker, and it's across the hall at Desire to Learn. We found out after we couldn't get a hold of anybody in the entire building. Anywhere, like in Toronto.
It was Friday at 4 o'clock, and everyone was checked out.
Yeah, it was too nice out. And that was the second time we had the lovely Neera Shankar on our show. The first time, the stream died. The second time, the power went out. Yeah. So third time's a charm?
It's either not or either way I'm okay with it, so we'll go with it.
Well, we're all good. So I have this one labeled as episode 30. It says take 2, episode 29. I don't know. I like calling episode 29 like the lost episode. Someday it'll be legendary. People will be trying to find it.
There you go.
Won't exist. Here we go. So we're back though.
April and Carolyn. Carolyn's watching us. How you doing in Ottawa? Thanks
hey,
for
Carolyn.
tuning in. We have a lot of what's new and what's working for you. 2 weeks for today's episode. We're going to get started with the theme that we wanted to speak about last week, which was really websites and website building. And beyond actually undertaking the project and building a website, what does it actually mean for your web presence and for your digital marketing strategy? And just debunking kind of this big kind of mythological beast of creating a website. How is it actually done?
Yeah.
How does it actually help you? Is it just why is it such a requirement in 2018? Things like that.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things to really kind of keep in mind is it's less about a website and it's more about how you want to communicate yourself. Like what the why of what you're communicating. What are you trying to say to people? Where are they? Like, are you reaching out to them or trying to drive them to you? And do you have like a message match that makes sense, or is it all about you, or is it about your potential customer? And I think oftentimes it's an easy trap to fall into. Oftentimes we forget that we are writing this for somebody else and not necessarily. A lot of times we will write things for ourselves as opposed to the person that's going to be actually reading it. So, but to that point, there is this, as Courtney said, this kind of mythological idea of the website and what it needs to be and how it needs to look and what it needs to say. And without a kind of solid plan and a roadmap to get you there and a checklist to figure out what are the things that you need and what is the purpose, like what is the funnel or the flow? Where do you want people to go when they're on that site? And does it make sense? Or is it just a one-pager that is, got pretty pictures on it?
For sure, yeah, and that's kind of what we do a little bit differently at Honeypot when we do build websites for clients. It's a very common question and request we get, obviously in the digital space, and also working with a lot of entrepreneurs who may be just starting out, like just launched their business last week and need a website, as a core piece to their marketing strategy. And the first thing I like to ask is why? Like, what is the purpose of your website? And the answer should not be just to have a website because it's 2018. Like, yes, obviously common sense dictates that, but what is the actual purpose in your marketing funnel? Is it to educate people? Is it going to be an online store? Is it going to be like, what piece is it going to be instead of just there, for the sake of people finding you, which is important, but the functionality of it really dictates a lot of what comes next in terms of content creation and design and all the technical fun. So
yeah, absolutely. So step one is kind of clarify your mission, right? So if you're a photographer, what type of a photographer are you? What are you trying to convey to people, right? Is it that you're going to capture their cherished memories? Is it that you're going to make them look professional? And you can do that on just a pad of paper. Just write out the whys of your business first and what it is that you're trying to achieve. And that's the most important first step in figuring out how to actually build it. So I guess the analogy that I would use is when you build a house, you don't just grab a bunch of 2x4s and start wailing on them and hammering them together. You get an architect, you have a plan, you have a dream, you have a vision. That plans are laid out. and then construction can begin in phased logical steps, right? But but if you're gonna say, you know, I want a chalet style home or I want a bungalow, and why? What do you want?
Like, I want a house built for functionality and, you know, to be like, you know, expense and things, or do you want like a beautiful home that's welcoming and like a showcase for people? Many different purposes. And we've seen a lot of people use websites, you know, in different sense. I think everyone first goes to like the traditional website use. You know, you go, there's the brand page, company information. I like it when people kind of think outside the box and get creative. You know, is there a tool simply that you could create for people to drive traffic to your site, and present some other element of value other than education about you? You know what I mean? And really making the website about them and why would they visit it, aside from learning about your wonderful company, I'm sure.
And I'm going to flip over and we'll just look at a couple of simple examples. Get some water. Do you have your water?
I don't have my water.
Oh,
today.
no.
It's okay. We're good.
There's a bottle of water over there if you want it. No, it's okay. Watch. No, it's okay. I'll be right back.
Good stuff.
So hospital.
So hospital?
Hospital. Sorry. English is hard.
Words are hard. There you go, Courtney.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What service?
Yeah, there you go. That's what I do. I live to serve. So let's jump over here. Oops. There we go. So yeah, that's me, and that's my website. So the purpose of oh wait, this thing. 1 sec here. I'm having. There we go. Is that gonna work? Yeah, there. No. Anyways, let it be. This is live stream studio being all crazy, but here's what you'll see here is this is my personal website. And I've had it around for quite a long time. I was doing the Marketing Drive podcast, which I will probably reinvigorate. But the point of this particular site was really to reinforce and help Honeypot that this is kind of something that I've been doing for a long time and that I care about it. So it's intended to be an additional proof point. And it's also intended to show, you know, that there's the marketing growth email that I send out every week. And then various different areas on the site where people can see my experience and a lot of sports marketing work that I've done in the past. And also that there's another option for consulting as well. And so that's kind of the why of my website, is really as to a reinforcing touch point for, obviously, for our website at Honeypot Marketing, right? And the why of our business is traffic leads conversions. Right? That's really the fundamental of what it comes down to, and we want to help your customers find you. So what we try to do, and then you can see here, which always gets our fun team video that shows that we're a group of real human beings, and it's not just this, you know, gorgeous website that's splashed up with parallax and high resolution images and things like that. But in a very simple way, identifying what it is that we're about makes it easier to construct the home pages and the content on the site, and then what do we want people to do, right? So for example, on here you'll see we have feedback, a live chat. So our main goal is to get people talking to us and to get them to come in and just to open that conversation. That's one simple example.
For sure. And just, you know, even to take that one step further, you know, like Dan said, for his site being a portfolio site, you know, obviously there are different types of portfolio sites, but you could even think about, you know, going back to the photographer example. Yes, you're going to showcase your photography. Obviously, that's going to be on your website. But perhaps you have a page that like helps couples. Perhaps you specialize in engagement photo shoots and wedding photo shoots. And perhaps you have like a pick your pose kind of a section where you help people pick different, like basically what the poses and things like that, and ideas for their shoot and their wedding. So you're giving them something that's also, like I said, like a tool, something of value beyond the information. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can play with that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things it is really important is understand that, especially for services-based companies, is step out there and show people how you want to help them, right? As opposed to a generic get a quote or book now, which are very bottom of funnel activities. People might be looking around for you, they don't know who you are. Give them something like a 10-step guide to the perfect wedding photography or engagement photography shoot. 10 things you need to think about.
Sure.
A free giveaway. One of my favorite local photographers here in the area is Taylor Jackson. And he does a lot of that. He's got a photography school, but he does a lot of giveaways and shoots a lot of videos, both for photographers and him and his wife, Lindsay, are both wedding photographers. They have a similar style. And what they do is it's very helpful to people. It's been very successful for them building their businesses.
And once you define a specific purpose, step one may take a long time. It is the first step, but obviously the planning and the strategy of it is a very important step. So once you're sure of your purpose, you're also really doing yourself a favor, because as you move into actual, the creation, the nitty gritty of it, what will it say? How will it look? Having a specific purpose will help you dictate that. And you won't just be putting out generic messaging and generic images. It'll really help you focus on what is it that you're exactly saying and who is it that you're saying it to.
Exactly. And once you get to that point of understanding that you can do it on one sheet of paper, you do not need to overload it. The other thing that's a really useful tool is go to Staples and get a multicolored pack of Post-it notes and divide your website up as each Post-it note is a page and an idea, and a page and an idea. And then clear a little space on the wall, and then try to ask a question that your customer would ask and how you would answer it. And then you can just simply start to stack those Post-it notes up on the wall. Very non-technical. And again, I think this is the thing that Courtney started out with, which is leave the technical stuff for the portion where you're designing and when you're actually having the site put together. Don't sit down and try to just start.
Yeah, start writing the copy for your homepage, before you even mapped out what the pages of your site are going to be, kind of a thing. So
yeah, exactly. The next thing to consider, and we've got the list up on the screen right now, is what is your marketing stack? And that's a fancy, well, it's not fancy, but it's a term. It's more of a marketing term for what platform are you going to use to run your website. And there's an endless ton of options out there for you.
Yeah, and also, not only the website, obviously the first decision is where are you going to host it, what's your content management system going to look like. But your marketing stack is also all the other little tools that help you, as Nira can attest to, that there's many little pieces and little tools that help a website function, whether it's the email marketing platform that you use for automated messages or delivering assets people request, or whether it's tracking through Google Analytics and things like that. There's a lot of other pieces that come into play, depending on which platform you use specifically. But that is what makes up your marketing stack. And that's a question we get asked very often, because we work with upwards of about 150 tools at Honeypot. So we obviously have a lot of experience in a lot of the
At the
different
same time. It's pretty amazing to see it.
So we can, we can make recommendations. Some things, obviously some tools are more enterprise-based and others are more, kind of startup focused. So depending on the purpose and what you actually need them for, certain tools are better than others. But yeah, it's an important decision. It's also tied into your investment choice as well, right? As a lot of tools are paid tools, and making a commitment to them and having them in your marketing stack is an important decision. So if you can do a free trial, or a lot of these platforms are very well known and will even give you a demo and a rep and things like that to kind of walk you through it. But yeah, very important decisions in the marketing stack.
Yeah, so I'm just lining up a few here actually as examples, and I think once again it's when we started out, it's what is your business and how are you going to sell it, and what type of a person are you, and what's your job. So for example, and I'll just flip over here. I think one of the things to keep in mind, that especially in 2018, I think it's important for people to understand that a lot of these platforms, whether it's, so this one is Squarespace, there's also WordPress.com, which is another option. Oftentimes, and if you're a small business and you're resource limited, you don't want to think about web servers and web hosting and installing WordPress, and then all of a sudden you don't even know what's going on anymore. It's absolutely reasonable to use and leverage and subscribe to these services. They're going to make sure your website is fast. You can create excellent websites with things like Squarespace. GoDaddy has a pretty good service that they've kind of relaunched. So just to kind of go through some of the tools, for a lot of times for photographers, Squarespace is a really good option. It's got beautiful templates. It is really image focused.
Wix is also really popular
Yep.
with anyone in a visually driven environment, especially if you have like we like to say the side hustle. You know, if you have a side hustle, Wix and Squarespace are basically meant for that. Like Wix especially, that's who they're targeting. So they are trying to give you all that beautiful parallax and great background image functionality with drag and drop usage. So if you are kind of a one-person operation or you have your own company, do consider those for sure. The only hesitation I would have with the platforms is just sometimes on an enterprise level with integrations and things like that, it can be a little limited. Not that you can't find a workaround for it. Things like Zapier and tools like that can be really helpful in that sense. But
Yeah, I don't think that Wix and Squarespace are really intended. If you had a medium-sized company, this is not the solution for you. I think these are for the startup or the company that may not want to invest in that kind of an infrastructure because it's not what you do. And there's a little analogy that, like, Hillary just said, hello, nice broadcast. Thanks, Hillary. And Matt gave us a shout out about the Post-it note ID being great.
Oh, my sister just joined.
Oh.
Sister.
she's tuning in for your debut here.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Share it with all the fam and embarrass
know,
Nira
she's
good.
probably
I don't know what's going to happen now.
She's gonna
Anything
take
could
all
happen.
the screenshots in our family group chat.
Oh boy, oh boy. So yeah, Wix and Squarespace really. The analogy I was going to mention was if you would imagine that you're opening a restaurant and you're going through all of the different things, like selecting the menu and the interior and the decorating and everything, and you open the door and the first thing you do on day one is you say, I'm going to build the best inventory and order management system ever from scratch. And it's like, that's not what you're there to do. You buy that and then you run your business. And if you're more focused on running your business or selling your product or servicing your clients, then I think these tools make a lot of sense. You will be limited at certain points, as Courtney said, with integrations and things like that. But with some simple tooling that is often included with these, you can do what we're going to start talking about, which is marketing automation and how you build that out properly to really do a good job with meeting your goals. That's what it really comes down to. Is the platform helping you meet your goals?
All the notifications over here.
I got like 5 things in front of me, so I'm checking. Yeah, and I got my Facebook is interfering. Here we go. The other option as well, very popular one, is WordPress.com. And now that's the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. WordPress.com is subscription-based. There's a free version. And then you can slowly start to add more different features, like your own domain name, et cetera, et cetera. The nice thing about WordPress is that it will scale to the enterprise. If you started a blog and then all of a sudden you're TechCrunch, which is actually the story of TechCrunch, it was a blog and then it just got huge. If you're on a platform like WordPress.com and Shopify, which is next up, it's absolutely smooth sailing to go right up to like you could handle the traffic of a New York Times. Actually, WordPress.com does host a lot of major sites. So that's a benefit of that as well, is that you don't have to move the site and go through that headache because you decided to get a one-on-one internet host for $4.99 a month.
Yeah, and that's the other reason we encourage people to, as they say, measure twice and cut once when you're putting your website plan together, because you are investing in something and it is an asset that you're going to be married to for a while, hopefully forever, as most people think when they get married. But it's you could switch over, when
Just
you
like diving into some real
We're
life
getting,
right there.
it's about to get really dark here,
That's
folks.
what I mean.
It's
You're
gonna get
marrying the
dark.
platform. You want to be using it forever. That is the point of these scalable platforms, because we have switched clients from different platforms before, and depending on the setup and how large the site is and things like that, it can be quite an undertaking.
Yeah.
So like I said, measure twice, cut once when you're making your marketing stack decisions.
In particular, and up to our next favorite here, is Shopify. And this one's really important, I think, because I'm not saying that Shopify is the be-all and end-all. There's Samcart, there's Instacart, there's lots of hosted alternatives. But one of the things is that e-commerce management, especially when you're tying into real-time order placement with a fulfillment house, whether it's Amazon fulfillment, it doesn't matter, is that once you make that decision on the e-commerce side, untangling it and re-implementing it is a big job. And hopefully, if you're successful, you don't want to interrupt your business operations. So it becomes quite a bit more critical to make thoughtful decisions about e-commerce when you're starting out.
For sure.
Right? Shopify is definitely kind of an industry favorite. It's one of the sweethearts of the industry, but like I said, there are other viable options. The thing that we love about Shopify, and we're Shopify partners, is that it has an incredible amount of flexibility through their apps and integrations to do what you want. And like WordPress.com, you can scale up to Shopify Plus, and they will actually migrate you over for you. They have an incredibly fast infrastructure. I followed a bunch of the Shopify engineers out of Ottawa that create what are called Docker instances for updates. And they do thousands of them at a time. It's a pretty amazing feat of engineering that they've put together. So it's not a little dog and pony show. This is like serious engineering goes on underneath. And then the interface makes it so that you can just log into your store wherever you want, and it's nice and stable, and it's nice and fast, and you're not going to worry about the site crashing and things like that.
And the user interface is very friendly for like multiple users, like whether you are directly the marketer on the team or not. Perhaps you're the owner and you just want to see. I find that compared to certain other interfaces, it's just the analytics that what you need to see is right there. What you need to do is right there. I find it just very simple to work with if you aren't familiar with working in the back end of those kinds of platforms.
Yep.
So,
yeah, for sure. And Kelly Gehring just said, "I'm alive at the Hive." The brand is catching.
There you go.
Nice.
Oh, and I
nice.
see Bobby. Hi, Bobby. It's another friend of mine. I shared it on my account.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. So you can go to Shopify, start a 14-day free trial, and you can set up all of your products and install apps and do those things. And again, strongly recommended on the e-commerce side, because when you get into, if you got into something like a Magento, forget about it. But even WooCommerce, those are great platforms, and they do power lots and lots of sites, but there's sites that are slightly different and have different motivations. They've got either a dev team in-house, and that's how they choose to run their things. Unless you've got that technical know-how and you're willing to invest in it, then I would not suggest that it's a great way to go. On the downside of all of these is there are monthly subscription fees that go along with it. So you want to make sure that the ROI is there for you to be able to afford it. And Shopify, with its payment gateway, is taking a percentage of every sale as well. So just some things to keep in mind.
Yeah, and that's just that if you do, commit to a tool that's very advanced and intricate and has a lot of great functionality, just be aware that like someone also has to, commit to learning that as well, so you do make the most out of the tools you're picking. But
Jayanta has just joined, and I've known Jay. Jay used to work for Honeypot back in the day. I believe he now works at IBM. So, hey Jay, it's good to see you again. Well, not see you, but to see you on the stream, I guess, as it were.
Your name pop up.
there you go.
Okay, so yeah, selecting your marketing stack, and there's really kind of a couple of components. One is obviously the website or the hosting. So Shopify also has a blog system, and that is the equivalent. It's just wrapped up with e-commerce. The next thing after you've selected what platform you're gonna use to host your site, is thinking about marketing communications and email marketing platform. And it's kind of a misnomer to call them just email marketing platforms, because they often include SMS as well. So it's a marketing automation platform, a MAP, and you've got a couple of options there. Nero, which one would come to mind?
I think it's called Active Campaign.
The joke on that is only that Nira spends about all of her day in there every day.
So great. Writing emails and automations. Love it. My
Living
favorite part of
the
the day.
You do seem to enjoy yourself. I didn't know that this was a thing. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, so on Monday, Nira's got to do some social or something. This is just we're all joking. So Active Campaign is also a sales CRM, so it's email marketing, email automation, so you can campaign from it. Email marketing automation, you can tag your site, and then if customers visit a certain page on your site and bail out, you can trigger an automation. The automations, if you see right up here, here's an example of one. They're nice because they're visual, but they can get complicated if you want them to, and or they can be quite simple.
So the thing that I guess you really have to wrap your mind around with email automation is that it really tries to flow like a simple logic. So for instance, if someone were to come onto your landing page or your website and submits a form, there's an actual trigger for that on ActiveCampaign where they can submit a form, and in the back end you can have anyone who submits a form automatically go into an email list, and from then on it's whatever you want to do. So maybe you go on a site, you put in your email address, maybe 2 hours later you get a confirmation email or something regarding or whatever action you took. That's an automation. That's not someone behind a computer just waiting for every single lead coming in and start shooting out emails. That process is automated to make your life easier. And so for the rest of the automation, however complicated or just simple that you want to go through, it just goes along to what is the start point, what do you want to do with them in the middle, and what is the end point, where are they going after this? Do you end an automation after you get that congratulatory email or that welcome email? Is it supposed to send them to another lead magnet? So my suggestion would be to map out what your automation is supposed to look like, and then maybe if you don't use ActiveCampaign, if you're using some other email automation system, whatever it may be, try to go through its functions, like what are their triggers, can you add tags, can you adjust contact fields and whatnot, and try to see how it works and how it applies to your specific funnel.
Yeah, and a funnel is really like a sales script. It's like, what would you say to somebody if just use a contact us form or learn more form? We actually, it's one of the simplest and most effective. We have one on our website at Honeypot Marketing. We have a few. And what it does is it waits a few minutes, so it's not like boom, boom. It doesn't appear to be fake. And it's a personally written email to that individual, trying to be a little more general, but asking them, what are your priorities, would like to get together and chat, we can have a phone call, or we can get together, let us know. And that one actually comes back to my email, and we get about 4 or 5 a week that are people, and it opens the conversation. So I just receive an email. As Neera pointed out, it's a very simple automation. I don't have to reply to it. I get the next follow-up, which then opens up the conversation, and it's quite effective, and it's incredibly simple.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most like the best example really when you would start a website, you've picked your tools, you're starting to design your funnel as you would speak. And yeah, that's one of the most basic ones that everyone's going to have, right? The contact us, the request form.
Yeah.
And those automations, like to Neera's point, they can be very simplistic. It can be just a response. Or it can lead someone, like if you are a B2B product with a much larger sales cycle, lead nurturing is really what one of the great advantages of email automation are. As you have so many leads and so many different parts of your funnel, how do you address them all and like address them all correctly and not allow them to slip through the cracks? Like that is what email automation is there to do, to help guide people through that conversation so that you don't have to have, so when they are ready to actually speak to a salesperson, then at that point, you can then connect them with a person.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, so there's a bunch of other things that do happen with ActiveCampaign. Think about, that the contact form is the most generic, but think about your blog, and if you have content that you're going to put out there, and thematically, you can tag the site with all of these systems. MailChimp is another one, not just ActiveCampaign, as an example, and HubSpot is another one as well. If someone's visiting some of your blog content and you've written it in specific series, what is the message? Like, what's the purpose of that? What would you want to follow up? If someone were reading that blog post and maybe it was like a conversation you were having, what would you do at the end of it? Like, what's the next thing you would say to them, right? And that's another follow-on type. So, for example, we'll use the wedding photographer example and 10 tips for perfect engagement photos, right? If someone downloads that, what's the next logical communication? You've given them something of value. Maybe 2 days later, a friendly follow-up email that says, "Hey, I hope you saw value in that. I wanted you to get these other 10 more tips, and let me know if you have any questions." And now, what you're doing is you're solving somebody's problem, and that's an automation. It's just how you write it.
And like Dan said, they're not meant to, like when you see automation messages that are clearly canned and have like no value and are literally just like a notification, I see that as like a missed opportunity. You know, because there's always somewhere for that lead to go, somewhere for that person to go next in your funnel, even if they're already a customer and you're sending them like a purchase confirmation link and it's just an email that says like, you know, thanks for your order, it's on the way. You could have done other things. You could have asked for, you know, a pending review. You could have asked them to follow you on social media. You could have shared a blog post with them that's about how to use the new product or service you just gave them and educates them and tries to activate them, as we say. So there's always kind of a next step, even if you've already gotten the purchase from them. The retention is something to look at as well with automation. So,
Actually, it was funny. I saw this video about a week ago from Vidyard. It was kind of like the, you know, the Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets where they're reading it. Well, this was, I don't know if it was mean B2B emails, but it was bad B2B emails.
oh, that one, yeah.
Reading it, and it's great because a lot of times it's these not very well thought out automations and even outreach emails that kind of went wrong, and the impact it can have is actually, you know, people sometimes know or can tell, especially if they're tech savvy, that this is an automation. But if it's done well, it's fine. But if it's not done well, you will lose that customer, right? Like that lead will be gone because it'll look so bad. So it's something to be careful.
So for an example of what I would say a bad automation, I recently bought into a VPN subscription, and I think a while ago, a few days after the purchase, I got another email saying from that company, buy the subscription, except I had already bought it. So it was kind of like a mismanaged, like it was misalignment of messaging where it's like, okay, well, I already bought your subscription. Why are you telling me to buy it again? So for me as a marketer, I can already see what may have gone wrong. But if I were someone else, it would just be like, what is this? I might even unsubscribe from those emails. And then I'm missing out on all sorts of marketing material, marketing news from that company.
Yeah, that's the old, you brought up that analogy around Christmas that you'd bought a dress and then they were still advertising to you to
The same dress
the
that
same,
I had bought.
the same dress, which is one, a total waste of money, and two, just super annoying.
Like as a marketer, obviously as a marketer, we're like professionally like, But as a person, even if I wasn't a marketer, I would be annoyed. And it's about brand building in that sense too. Like what impression are you giving this person? Like Nira receives that email and perhaps she's not a marketer, doesn't understand, and is like, did my subscription not go through? Like what's wrong here? And you know, they're a confused consumer, really, you know? So you obviously don't want that to be the situation. And yeah, I think emails, you know, people describe them as email blasts and things like that, and email tends to get a bit of a bad rap. But I think you could talk to Amazon and like other huge companies like that who have used it to great effect. And it's really, I think it's one of the areas to make mistakes easily, because people tend to just kind of think of the basics and think of like a lot of the poor ones that they get. And, you know, that's really not what you should do. Really consider your strategy as you put it together. It can be very valuable if it's done right. So.
And one other great thing about automations that sometimes people might forget, especially with emails, is that you shouldn't always just be emailing the same group, the same message. You should try segmenting your list. So for instance, let's say after month 1 of opening up your business, maybe if you're on e-commerce, you have a group of people who consistently buy from you, and there's a group of people who maybe have bought once in week 1 and kind of trailed off. In that scenario, I believe that you should segment those two lists. So with the list where there are people who are actively and recurrently buying from you, give them some sort of, like offer them some sort of lead magnet or some sort of sale, something to like nurture them. Yeah, thank you, an incentive. And whereas where there's the people over here who bought once and maybe forgot about it, maybe send them a reminder email like, hey, haven't heard from you in a while, what's up? Maybe not use that kind of language, but whatever works with your brand, and try to re-nurture and remarket towards them. So that's one of the really great things about email automations is you can use segmentation to remarket to different lists.
Yeah, and the other part of that, especially if you're on the e-commerce side, is what we call deep data integration. And that's just a fancy word for getting every piece of data that it relates to that person's shopping history. So you'll be able to know what product they bought, what quantity they bought, what frequency they've purchased it at. And to Nira's point, you can then make intelligent communications decisions to those people. Put your arms around your RSVPs, create a VIP club, give them, you know, if you're on Shopify, integrate smile.io for loyalty and reward points. And that is literally how you turn your e-commerce store into a selling machine that you will obviously campaign, but when it's all set up and those automations are running, you don't have to manually worry about the fact that, gee, did I remember you know, if I have 1,000 customers, do I know how many of them have only purchased once or purchased 2 or 3 or 4 times? It's literally the strongest thing you can do to consistently build that business over a period of time, for sure.
And this is a bit of a little tip. A while ago, I was working at a e-commerce startup where we use Shopify and MailChimp. There's actually an integration with MailChimp and Smell.io where when you're sending out emails, you can actually state like, hey, person X, you have 500 points, you're only 250 points away from the next level up, which nets you XYZ benefits. So that's a great way for someone to really be like, oh, okay, if I just spend whatever the amount, maybe like $50 more, I can get into this next level. So that's a great incentive to bring people back to whatever your business may be.
Absolutely.
For sure, yeah. And to Nir's point, just her example there is it integrates with other elements of your marketing strategy, like a loyalty program or a referral program or an affiliate program. Also areas where email marketing, automation, segmentation all come in very much handy. So
Yep, absolutely. So just on to the next thing, there's a few different platforms that do this, but this is also a great active campaign feature. The same way that you would trigger an email, and this is why I said it's a little bit more than an email marketing platform, it's a marketing automation platform, on-site messaging engagement, and you can base that on that person's segmentation, profile history, everything. So you again, it's not just one message you're sending out. If someone's in a certain segment, and the formal thing is, you know, you apply a tag to them to identify them. You can then have, and it looks, let's see if I can just zoom in on this a little bit. Oh, I can't. Okay. Watch, it's probably going to catch up to itself. Anyways, you've seen this all before, the little bubble down here in the bottom of the screen with a chat message on it. But you can customize that chat message. So you capture someone when they're in a browsing state, if they're on a product page, if they're on your blog and they're, whoa. All right, let's flip out of
Zoom
that.
too much?
It looks like Chrome just decided not to play nice. Oh, wait.
And it's back.
And it's back. Jeez. At least the power didn't go out yet.
There you go.
Cross your fingers.
All this shade. Oh my god. You don't even need an umbrella.
That's right.
What's that? Is that what they're saying now?
You don't know what shade is? It's okay.
Yeah, no, I know what shade is. It's just that you don't even need an umbrella. That's what got me. Sorry.
I did click it too many times. There we go. As you were.
All right. On-site messaging. Showing you guys an example.
Back to on-site messaging. Yeah, so there's
Brandon
the...
Shoemaker, you make me smile.
There we go. Yeah, that old, good old
He
Chrome.
knows that Chrome feel. Yeah.
I know that Chrome feel. I got you.
Causing trouble.
I feel you.
All right.
Okay,
Sorry.
then both of you need water.
Choking on air. All right, the third and last one that is actually really great is the SMS integration as well. And used with caution, this can be really great. It can be great for orders delivered in process. 1 week later, you know, we just wanted to check in to see how are you liking the product. People have become fairly comfortable with SMS messaging, but you can also extend that into Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Kik, all the different messengers that exist as well.
I would just to reiterate though, Dan's like, use with caution. You know, a lot of people, like to Nir's point, when segmenting and things like that and what we're discussing, if you're sending a newsletter to your entire list and that's like your email marketing strategy, you know, like that's like 101. And it's like you really need to leverage the segmenting and consider, you know, don't send everyone on your list an SMS. You will have a lot of unsubscriptions. You will have a lot of people probably unhappy and not participating. But I've seen it used very effectively, like for a VIP audience, for example. Segment the people who are your most loyal, most frequent customers, and perhaps invite them to an exclusive SMS list in which they get something from it. Not just the same notification you're going to email to them, but for example, in an e-commerce retail space, it's a VIP offer. Perhaps they get your special offer 48 hours before anyone else does. You know, things like that. So. Yeah, it's
see the peanut gallery in the comments is going off. The Deep and Delicious McCain cake is the best of all of those options. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I'm just reading the comments. I'm like, wow, this derailed real quick.
Yeah, that's okay. It's Friday afternoon. You're supposed to have fun. Can't be serious all the time. Okay, so once you figured out your marketing automation platform, I think the next thing that you really want to consider is how are you going to track this? And again, if you're using WordPress.com or Wix or Squarespace or Shopify, it's one line that you have to insert. Like it's just a code. So it's not a lot that you have to do there.
Says Dan to like completely untech savvy people who are probably like, what do you mean? Where do I put it? Like,
well, yes.
Dev over here is like, it's just one line of code, guys.
It's a number. It's a number. You can do it. I know you can do it.
They do give you good instructions on how to do it.
Yeah, and most times, like wherever you're downloading it from, they usually have like their own documentation that you can follow.
Yeah, that's right. And you can always get a hold of their customer support, and they will walk you through it.
Yeah, because sometimes the documentation can be kind of confusing.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I always tell people when you buy something, like call them. You bought it from them. They're there to help you. Why not?
As soon as the instructions are like, and go into the PHP file, I'm like, okay, I'm calling them. We're done here.
Brandon says code hurts my brain. Well, it hurts my brain too. And I've been doing a lot of coding this week. But yeah, call support.
Yes.
But anyways, the point being is that in Google Analytics, you will have a number of reports, and especially on the e-commerce side, that are going to unlock a lot of information about how your business is performing, where you can improve, what content is really getting a lot of traffic, and what the sources of those content are. And data is the most important thing that you can get out of these systems, is to really guide what you're doing and to say, hey, that worked really well. I'll do more of that. Or the thing that you think is doing amazingly well because you like it a lot is not doing so well, and it's a common trap to fall into.
Yeah. Do not make assumptions about your marketing analytics. Do not. Sometimes hunches are good and like insights into the industry are good and they're right, but a lot of the times you'll find things that you did not expect, like referral traffic from a site that you aren't even really aware of, and they're directing traffic to you. Different things like that. So do a deep dive in and make sure, confirm your suspicions and your hunches.
Yeah. Just to jump back here, Jay is asking what's the best way to keep your email list clean. And yes, there are several services like Zero Bounce that promise to keep your reputation email marketing. The best way, if you're acquiring the leads from your site, is to continually do what Neera had mentioned, which is continually email them, communicate with them. Don't let the leads die in your database. If you are importing leads from other sources, B2B marketplaces of repute like Exact Data, for example, or TradeGecko is another one, then you still want to use, Zero Bounce, or another one is quick email verification to make sure. Hopefully you're not finding your lists on the dark web or on a paste bin or through some message board. That is not a great way to go.
No, and you're probably also bringing CASL and GDPR compliance issues into that as well if you're sourcing your lead lists. You can work with purchase lists, but yes, obviously the quality and everything like that, depending on the source. But I think just like Neera mentioned earlier, segmentation, and not only segmenting people based on like what they're interested in, but their behavior too, to keep your lists clean and to protect the rates, like your open rates and click-through rates, and keep them authentic.
Yeah. Like any platform like ActiveCampaign or MailChimp or MailJet or Mailgun, like there's tons of them. When you send an email from their platform, they have email servers that they protect. It's obviously the heart of their business. If you have a bad list in there, or you've imported a poor list, or you haven't used something like Zero Bounce or quick email verification, which just makes sure that those emails are active and they don't bounce and they exist. There's also a thing when you buy lists as well, even from like data.com, which is a Salesforce company, there are spam traps in there. There's a group called Spamhaus. HAWS, and they seed fake emails into systems so that when you send to them, they know that you're sending what is, I mean, it's hard. Data.com sells that information. It's part of a marketplace. It's not illegal, but that person has not explicitly solicited you to communicate with them. So if you send to that, and if you have a reputation score, MailChimp will shut your account down. ActiveCampaign will shut your account down. It's definitely not a place you want to go to with your lead list.
And certain platforms do have the ability to clean your list, ActiveCampaign, for instance, and that will just remove things like bounces or even people have unsubscribed, so that from the basic perspective, you're keeping your list clean. But from behaviorally is how I like to segment personally. Who opens your emails all the time? Who clicks through all the time? who joined your subscription list 2 years ago and has yet to open an email from you, you know?
Mhm.
Really consider the way in which you're talking to people. And, you know, just to reiterate what Nira said, don't send to your whole entire list. You know,
Yeah.
they're different people from different sources. They should be spoken to differently. If you want to keep them qualified. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
best-
to no, sorry. So to
after
give
you.
you a real life example, when I try segmenting my list for weekly emails, what I do is I have two main ones. So with my list, I have either active contacts, and it's literally just has this person open any campaigns that I've ever sent. Did you just zoom in?
I
Yeah,
see
you
that one.
did.
Our chest.
No.
That's not awkward at all. But okay.
Anyways.
Anyways, back to this.
Well, there was a whole episode that started out that way for like 10 minutes, wasn't there?
Highest views on that episode.
I was moving the thing.
I wonder
here.
why.
Yeah, there it
Anyways,
is.
so-
Heyo.
Anyway, so I have one active contact list where it's literally has this person open any email that I've sent ever, and another one where it has this person never opened a campaign. And what happens with the inactive list is that sometimes there will be one out of like maybe 1,000 people who will actually open. And the beauty of automation is that once you open an email that was in my inactive list, because they've opened that email, they automatically go to my active list. So that's one easier way if you're starting up. Maybe you don't have as big as a list, you're not importing leads, or you don't really have the means to buy a service or some sort of service who can do that for you. That's just an easy way where you can set up within your own email automation system.
So Kelly's asking if you can see if people have read your emails.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes. So every week after I send my emails, I go and check on Monday, and I go into the campaign, and they actually have reports.
Opens, clicks.
Yeah, so I can see who opened, who clicked, what they clicked, how many times they opened. So there's a difference between unique and total open. So let's say out of a list of 1,000 people, maybe 500 different people opened my email, but of those 500, maybe 100 of them went back and opened it again. That goes more into total clicks or total opens now. So there's a lot of things you can do within email reporting.
Sure, and the other thing is that the best way to ensure that your list is a quality list is to build the list yourself, right? So acquire your leads, get lead magnets out there, downloads, webinars, different ways that people want to give you their email, and then you know exactly that person is qualified for you to some greater or lesser degree, and you can go through the rest of that process.
Yeah, because it was kind of similar to the debate that's been going on with GDPR right now. Is people are like clinging to these really large lists that they have, and they're like, but I don't want to lose all these people. And it's like, but how valuable are these people? Like, you want your list to be qualified. It's not about size. It's about, I'm looking at open. Yeah, okay, don't laugh. It's about open rates and engagement rates.
I don't know what's going on this episode, people, but
there's the swag right there. It's not about size of your list. It's about how you use it. Anyway.
Matthew, Justin, get on that. There we go. Wow. That escalated quickly.
All right. We've done kind of a mashup of our roundtable and our what's working for this week.
Yeah,
with
a
this
little
whole website email automation saga that's going on now. So.
Yeah. So just to wrap up some of the things here. So once you get all of your tracking in place, and just to kind of circle back to that, there's a couple of tools. You may not need a landing page tool like Unbounce.
Yeah, those are just
here we go.
laughing.
I like this episode.
The
Okay.
peanut gallery.
You know what? I mean, hey, it's supposed to be this. If we had this level of comedy every single week.
That's what I gotta start
Matt's
doing.
like, I like this episode. It's because I'm on it. I know.
There you go.
You just reminded me of Sri Lankan Joan Rivers there.
Okay.
He's just like, oh.
He got Sri Lankan right this week, though.
There you go.
He
didn't say
did. He
Indian,
called me
so-
Indian last week, and I'm like,
No,
triggered.
I didn't. You know what? And the thing is, I was talking to Nira about going to the Maldives a few years ago. That I had a stopover in Sri Lanka,
so offended.
and she didn't say a single word to me that she wasn't Sri Lankan.
I 100% did, because anytime someone assumes that I'm Indian, I'm like, I'm not. I'm Sri Lankan. Completely different. We're like a little island.
So Brandon either thinks I'm super cute or Nira's super cute.
It's 100% me.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go with. I hope it's Nira. Not that that's
I hope. Yeah. Okay.
I would prefer to be cool, but you know, whatever works.
Oh, and Ricky's joined us. Hey, Ricky.
There we go. Hey,
Word
Ricky.
went out via Skype that it's a good episode today, and
Yeah.
he's joining in.
It's a banner episode.
How's it going in Costa Rica?
Okay. So getting back on track here, talking about digital marketing, you can get another tool like Unbounce. And actually, Unbounce, if you've got a small site, if you've got a small, you don't need very much, it can be all that you need. You could set up a single page site with Unbounce for a low cost as well, if that's all you really wanted to do. Then moving on, what you want to do next is a platform called Hotjar. Again, what that does is it does screen recordings of your visitors, shows you heat maps. It's a very useful tool, so you understand, again, what's working and what's not.
Yeah, it's a conversion rate optimization tool is the term that we like to throw around, CRO. But yeah, a heat map it shows how people engage with your website. Where are they going? Where are they clicking on your site? A typical thing that people find is about us or your team page is very often a highly visited site. But yeah, it's very very useful when you're trying to determine your lead generation funnel and your sales flow.
And you can also figure out if there are any problems with your site. So for instance, about a year ago, I was interning with a different startup who used Hotjar. And after looking at multiple screen recordings, I noticed that specifically if users or visitors on the site were accessing it through an iOS device, so an Apple device, specifically through Safari, their load times were way longer, which to me indicated that there might be an image size issue. So it's not just seeing how people interact with your site, you can also leverage Hotjar in a way to see if there are any problems on your site.
And Google Analytics will also give you some of that information as well. But yeah, definitely Hotjar. Definitely think mobile first, because that's going to be the typically it's about 50 to 60%. But and we'll get to it, is Mary Meeker's State of the Internet from Kleiner Perkins, which is the definitive state of technology and digital marketing and all of those things. That mobile is going to take up to 70%, and then by 2022. So you'll see a decline in desktop use and obviously an increase in mobile. So you got to think mobile first. So next thing you want to do, and this is something that you can do kind of the entire time, and we spend a lot of time on this, is keyword research and competitor research, those two things. You don't need any fancy tools, right, Nira? We did this yesterday. we go through this process often. You can use Google to, I'll show you really quickly here.
We're gonna do some keyword research
We're
on the fly.
gonna do some keyword research on the fly.
That looks so comfortable, just how you're positioned.
Just with like 4 computers,
Yeah.
Great for your
and your
pecs.
phone.
Google wants to know my location. Of course it does.
Google
Sure.
wants to know everything.
Well, it's got to give me the
local
localized
search.
deal. Okay, so let's do pizza delivery, and let's say I've got a pizza place. And I scroll down to the bottom, and then you'll see these 8 extra results here, okay? Those are related searches from Google's database that give you what are called, so the seed would be pizza delivery, the stems would be all of these, and then you can continue to do this. So every time you do it, you get typically 8 more until you run out, right? And start to copy and paste those into a text file, and you're going to build a keyword list that's going to be really, really targeted. And because that's Google's relations, you're going to build up a site that has the topics and everything that Google's going to say that could be an authoritative site in that area, and you can generate search traffic from it. So, you know, but something you should constantly be thinking of is your competition, understanding what they're doing, and then kind of consistently build on this keyword research that you're using, that you're finding, and then iterate on it like once every month. If you see something that's interesting that your competition is doing, you see that they rank for a term, you might want to look into it. It's an incredibly, it can be simple if you're consistent with it. It gets very complicated the larger that you get in the e-commerce space and internationalization and things like that. But for anybody that was just, if you felt like, gee, I don't really know too much about this type of thing, you know how to type a Google search, you scroll to the bottom, you copy, you understand your business better than anybody, I hope. And this is something that anybody can do, right? And it's really, you can keep a spreadsheet and start to build them up. And as you build them up, you're going to learn about more and more content that you have that you can create.
For sure, yeah, and this is a very basic way to do it. In terms of right from the start, you should have your keyword strategy defined and have your ideals for what you'd like to rank for. And then, like Dan said, you're probably busy, but to like work it into your schedule that like at the end of the month, you take a look at your keywords. What are you ranking for? What aren't you ranking for? And what should you pivot? And you can make changes like that. And those kinds of changes should be reflected in any content that you're putting out on your site or just kind of in general. So perhaps, at a modest, angle, maybe you're doing a main page a month on your site, and that reflects the keyword strategy. Capitalizing on trending terms it should really be a part of all keyword strategies, and it's about timeliness. If there's a trend in the pizza industry, perhaps there's a new type of pizza or something
or
like
it's
that.
The Super Bowl.
Exactly, something like that comes out that's you really need to be on top of that. So
right.
yeah.
So here's a good example. It might seem silly, but pizza delivery is a great example of local events. So if you're a local pizzeria, say local events, so like the Super Bowl is the ultimate example. It's the largest sales day in the year for pizza delivery. Like Pizza Hut and Papa John's make like billions of dollars in one day. It's insane. Also, fun fact, it's the largest selling day for guacamole by far. Millions of avocado are killed in one day making glorious guacamole.
How do vegans feel about that?
Millions of avocado.
Millions. It's I don't know.
Rest in peace, avocado.
Yeah. It's guacamole time. It's true.
The guac revolution. Watch out.
I was actually surprised when I learned about that a number of years ago. I like guacamole, but apparently Americans.
What about like chicken wings and stuff like that?
Chicken wings are big.
Nachos, isn't that what everyone eats? Super Bowl.
Apparently it's pizza and guacamole.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently, there you go. But use the example of a pizza delivery, a pizza joint. There are local events you can capitalize on, right? Like midget baseball or basketball finals or high school finals, or that there's a baseball tournament
or a
coming up.
concert or something like that.
Concert
even.
coming up, yeah. A marijuana dispensary opening up down the street,
Get creative with your strategies. Know who your market is.
We're Canadian. Bill C-45 passed. It's legal.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal. How about that? So, anyways, but researching your local market and understanding what the peaks would be for your business and capitalizing on it, and then being able to, you could create content. You could reach out to, to the sports organization or whatever it might be to create a special deal. What's going on there? The guac revolution. Yeah, see, who doesn't love guacamole?
No one. It's just.
I have never met anyone that. I'm sure there's somebody that doesn't like.
I think
out
I've
there
met
somewhere.
someone who hasn't ever had like avocado guac before. And I'm like, oh wow, that's depressing.
I often meet a lot of people that don't know that guacamole is made out of avocados.
Really?
That seems like.
Oh, I know people who don't realize that hummus is made out of chickpeas though. So.
You can see that one. You can see that.
I have a funny story, totally off topic. A girl I worked with years ago did not know that a lamb was a baby sheep. And it was like, it blew her mind. She was like, what? And she was in her 30s.
Wait, it's not?
We were like, I don't know how it even came up. Her name is Erin. She's a really funny, longtime friend of mine. But her mind was literally blown the day that she learned that a lamb was a baby sheep. Anyways, moving right along.
That's kind of cute, I guess.
It was pretty funny at the time. If you met somebody that was literally shocked by this fact, right? You would feel, get out of here, Windows. Windows just tried to update, of course.
In the middle of the stream.
In the middle of a stream. So yeah, but capitalize on the local events for your business where you have an opportunity, and then you can customize that website, update a landing page, and even run a small digital marketing campaign that's geo-targeted to a certain area, provide a coupon, hit target mobile devices, when the event's happening, that kind of thing. You can get a lot of leverage of looking at large companies and what they do with their millions of dollars of budget, and really just kind of copy what they're doing on a local and smaller scale for you. And you can rest assured that you will eventually work for you.
For sure.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Awesome.
Cool.
Are we going to segue into our what's new section? Or are we going to?
That's it for your website. Boom.
Bust right through to the end.
We'll come back to it.
But we'll put that later.
Yeah, we can bust through. What are we talking about then? What do we want to do?
We had a few things about what's new
Yeah.
this week and last week, I guess. So.
And yeah, so kind of picking off of last week, if anyone has learned that Facebook is killing their news, trending news section. So I know I've seen.
Praise be.
Sorry.
Praise be. That's it.
What?
Yay.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
yay.
I'm also deaf, so I heard breeze me, and I'm like, I definitely didn't hear breeze me. Anyways, if you go onto your actual Facebook account and see on the top right corner, you would have seen some changes. So essentially with trending news, what had happened was, I believe a couple years ago, there was a small group of journalists who basically dictated what the rest of America was seeing. Obviously, if you've been keeping up with the news, you've seen that it's been a haven for fake news, things that probably weren't verified properly. And so what's happening now is something called Today In, where now local publishers can publish articles based on what's happening, and that's what you'll be able to see. So it's a bit more verified.
Yeah, this is Facebook's push move away from being a news source because it's complicated. What ended up happening with I don't think the small team was that small. It was about 1,200 people, but small in Facebook terms.
Yeah,
Facebook
small
terms.
in Facebook terms, yeah.
But human beings also have bias as well, and that was the difficult thing for them to kind of understand. What does the bias mean? Whether it's a bias to the left, a bias to the right, bias for certain news sources over others.
Yeah, or interest in the topic and what is more newsworthy than others, since there's only limited, stories that will be featured there. So,
yeah. So Facebook is really turning towards the Friends network. Like that's the place to connect with friends, as opposed to the place where you should consume your news. And will likely probably come out with a different type of news consumption, but I don't think that they're really going to they don't really want to manage it, as it were.
No, they don't want a part of that trouble.
Well, it's because it's hard. And I think Facebook has underestimated. It's interesting because Facebook has done very difficult things very well and done other difficult things that they didn't think maybe were so difficult, were surprising to them, have done very poorly. And management of what news is and how it's consumed, and then what does trending mean? Like where is it trending? How is it trending? Why is it trending? Why is it trending for me? It's a really tough thing to do just algorithmically, and when you introduce people into it, it gets even worse. And then manipulation by fake news sources is a real thing.
Yeah, I think they're just trying to close any of those sort of gaps in light of like the fake news phenomenon and just everything like that. To their point, to their credit, they're trying to make everything more credible, and more directly from the news source, and let the news people, the journalists, the people at the publications do what they do and dictate, and do their part of it. So.
Yeah, you got to hope to a certain degree that it gives a little bit of a credence to the craft of journalism, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
How important it actually is. Like in Ontario here, we have a Facebook page called Ontario Proud, which is one guy that sits in a coffee shop, and he actually says it's not real news. It's just articles were just out about it, and they're rolling out across the country, and it's a dangerous trend. It's a dangerous trend. Facebook is going to have to deal with some of that other stuff. The question becomes then, when are you censoring and when are you not, right?
I think it's also the onus on the reader itself. Like, you should be able to, if Facebook, for instance, when trending news was still kind of big, and you go on a site, check the website, see who's actually being the one writing these articles, see if you Google the topic, like see what else is coming up, and if you do your due diligence, that's generally how you can decipher whether something's fake news or actually real. Right,
but that's you, Nir, and I think you're the exception rather than the rule to a lot of the average people on the planet. There's actually, it's funny though that, so Kelly said the algorithm route is what led to the big YouTube issue at the Paul brothers in the beginning of the year. There's been a couple of other studies on their related topics. It's called a negative spiral. And it was a data scientist that looked at, if you began to just search for YouTube conspiracy theory, and he took like millions of data points on this, is that your related videos would slowly start to show you, and it's called a negative feedback loop. So I might be interested in what is a conspiracy theory. So I search for that and I watch a video, what is a conspiracy theory? Then my related searches were coming up with increasingly, because I was delving into it, maybe I'm researching it, maybe I'm curious about it, but I start to be delivered more intense conspiracy theories as time goes on. It's called the negative feedback loop, and what it does is it puts people that are there, that's all that they see, so they believe it to be the truth in their world. There's nothing else being presented to them. And then that's how you get like Alex Jones style, like it's the lizard people and the Illuminati, right? It gets crazy, or Parkland shooting was a hoax, and Pizzagate and all this craziness, right?
Yeah, and it's just kind of through the nature of algorithms across the board being based on behavior. They want to show you what you're seeing more of, and thus this is kind of like a more of a long-term effect of it that people are now looking at, right? Is that you're reinforcing people's thinking.
We went from high comedy to dark, really dark, really quick.
It's a very volatile show.
And
lizard people.
Don't you know about the lizard people? I gotta.
It's in a past episode. Just look
I'll talk about the lizard people anytime, because I read a stat that it's like 32% of all U.S. citizens actually believe that the lizard people were a branch. They live amongst us, but they are hidden from us, and they are enslaving us, and they are all around us. It's a real conspiracy theory. Apparently, 32%. I gotta find out where I heard that stat, but it always made me laugh.
Guy for one, welcome our lizard overlords. Let's go. Let's do it.
We got some great stuff. Did you know that the moon is actually a hollow sphere with a very thin layer of rock? No, it's not. It's rock. It's moon. Anyways, let's talk about
what else is new.
Yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about, because this report here is Mary Meeker's Internet Trends Report. So this is the holy grail for anybody in tech. It's put out by obviously Mary Meeker, but it's a Kleiner Perkins, which is one of the largest VC groups in Silicon Valley and in North America. It's a great trends report. We'll throw the link up to it. This is an article on some of the takeaways for e-commerce and advertising. And this one I find to be really interesting. If you look at you misspelled internet. Edit.
Oh. English is hard. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries. No worries. You're forgiven. The advertising dollars. Look at the print, radio, TV, desktop, and mobile. So sorry if you can't see that. Print is the little one on the left-hand side. Percent of time versus percent of advertising spend. And look at desktop and mobile. That little block right there is a $7 billion opportunity. That's a whole lot. And if you look at what's happening, desktop and mobile, TV is in decline, desktop is in decline, mobile is on the rise. Pretty straightforward stuff, but the shift to mobile is continuing, and it's going to accelerate, right? So understanding that that's happening can really guide you. Like, focus on mobile. Make sure that you're thinking mobile first, because you don't want to be 3 years down the road trying to catch up on that.
No, yeah, and later this year and throughout this year and next, as your desktop, traffic becomes mobile. If you aren't there, you're going to see those numbers decline, and you're going to wonder why. And you should be losing it. You can, catch it on the other side, so to speak. But yeah, be sure that if you aren't considering it now, just make it part of your plan for this year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, people have been thinking about it and been talking about mobile for a few years now, at least. But the sooner you get on the trend, like, the best time to start, if you haven't already, is today. So just consider that when you move into the summer months with your plan.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at the comment thread. Everybody likes the lizard people. I know, me too. Okay, it's called Gaia, GAIA.com. Go do yourself a favor. Be like the best. I think it's $27 for the year. There's some great shows. It's like Netflix. It's Netflix, basically. But for alternative stuff. There's a show called Buzzsaw with Oliver Stone's son. It's Oliver Stone's son. He has the best guests. And he's not like Alex Jones. Like, he doesn't endorse he's totally straight down the middle. But he takes everybody, no matter how crazy they sound, and he treats them as if they're like on 60 Minutes completely seriously, and they just go. The one guy on the lizard people is a great example. Okay, look at now so we have the delay, so now they're talking about advertising. We're talking about more lizard people. The next one here in this trends report that's really important, and this is a huge opportunity for marketers, and there's a huge opportunity, even if you're not technically advanced, there are services that can get you into Amazon Echo, Google Home, and then what is it? Was it Apple Assistant? I can't remember what it's called. I don't use the Apple one. I have an Echo. Voice is taking off, and it's only gonna get crazier with voice. If you saw a couple weeks ago, Google Duplex, which is their AI agent that was able to call hair salon and interact as if they were a human being, which is terrifying. But from a marketing perspective, to be able to have your app or your product or your availability on an Echo device, then you're going to be winning. There are apps that you can have that can, so it depends on what you do, but using and leveraging the ideas behind the installed base for Amazon Echo and Google Home or Duplex and Apple Pod or whatever it's called.
Yeah, voice search numbers have been rising for 2 years now or so, and they're expected to continue. So very much we see this. I see this covered all the time in marketing journals and especially SEO from a search engine optimization perspective. Just to consider the nuances like between how people speak and verbally ask a question as opposed to how they would write it or type it in. So just little details like that. If you are in search engine optimization, if you are building out your website, just important things to consider that way.
HomePod. Thanks. Sorry. The other thing is, like to Courtney's point, with Amazon Echo and with any of these voice controlled. So for example, if you're talking about Google Assistant, Google My Business ties into that particular result, and then your search results can come up. So a strong Google My Business listing, which is incredibly important for any business that has a local sphere of influence, which is a lot, you can actually, so if someone says, hey Google, I guess. I don't know, I say hey Alexa. That's my Jim Jam.
Or even like their hours, you mean?
Pizza delivery, yeah. Like, well, what's the best pizza delivery place near me? It will go based on the star rating, and then it will give you the phone number and the description. I use it on Amazon all the time. I don't have a Google Assistant, but the Google Assistant does the same thing, and it does pull in that information. So again, huge opportunities that are just kind of, I think people look at it, it's a lot like mobile. I think people look at it like, that's cute, cool, you got an Amazon Echo or you got a HomePod, like that's, it's not cute. They're like investing billions of dollars into these devices.Ey're gonna add, the next one coming will also have a screen on it as well with that technology. So it's an interesting thing, it's an interesting trend to certainly be aware of.
Yeah, so for instance, I have Android. I use Android Auto with my car, and most times if I'm feeling hungry or whatnot, I will be like, okay, nearest pizza near me or healthy vegan places near me, and I start from my Google Maps app on my car screen. I can see what's near me, what I like, maybe even the star ratings, and boom, I'm already there.
And that all derives from the search engine, right? And local search. So yeah, definitely a place you want to be. The next one that's kind of all over, it's not as much of a focus, but e-commerce related advertising is rising, which means it's just the growth of e-commerce and kind of the death of the traditional retailer. Sears closed another 1,000 stores. I think they have 66 of them left, and they had 4,000 at their peak.
Yep, I saw that announcement last week. Was it?
Yeah, I think it was last week. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so again, e-commerce, people are purchasing online just because, I mean, you may have a Shopify store, but you also want to get on Amazon. You might want to get on jet.com as well. Get on as many different places as you can. That advertising, people are more and more and more comfortable with purchasing. And it's one of Shopify's taglines and mottos, which I like, is e-commerce should be in the hands of the many, not of the few. So you have the opportunity to own your own store as opposed to just passively sitting by, and your customers are going there. The revenue's being spent there, and your customers are going there. Did I miss a joke on the thread?
No, my other friend also joined.
Oh, okay. Well, this is kind of going to get dark again. Household debt. No, what this one is about is that before the last crash in 2008, when Nero was 3.
When Nero was 3.
Okay.
That's like 10 years ago. No, consumer
13,
confidence was at its.
I was gonna be like, okay.
Consumer confidence
Math
was
is hard, I
actually
guess.
at its highest point in like 10 years in 2007, I believe, when this report came out, and then there was the Great Recession, which if you were around wasn't fun. Anyways, household debt is right. All the trends are indicating that something like that is coming, so be careful. Save your money.
Scaring people.
Sorry, I should have ended it on a fun. I didn't actually write this, so. But anyways, it's interesting just that with all of the spending going on, that this is another trend that they're seeing. And lastly, though, we'll start with something. Okay. Cost per acquisition, or cost per acquisition, or customer acquisition cost, whichever one you want to use.
CAC.
Yeah,
Like we don't have enough acronyms. Let's mix it up.
Yeah.
Rearrange
Well,
the words.
ROAS, return on advertising spend. If you get into like acquisition documents, it's all all. There's an acronym for everything. But cost per acquisition, CPA, is going up. It's getting more expensive. The platforms are raising their costs.
More people are entering and using digital advertising and digital marketing, strategies, which drives up the cost of keywords and everything like that.
Yep, and it's not going to get cheaper anytime soon, which means you got to care more and more and more about your lifetime value, customer retention. So getting qualified leads and ensuring, so it's becoming more and more important because it's just going to get more and more expensive. So unless you can figure out a way to increase your margin, you're going to reduce your profit margin, or you have an opportunity to really focus on the lifetime value of your customer and make a lot more money over the long term. So some of the, I think we should, we're way over today. We have a 2-for-1.
I tried to ring you in like 20 minutes ago, but it didn't.
No, I know. Should we finish?
Like you specifically said to wrap up about 20 minutes ago, and I'm like, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let it happen.
If you can roll 3 6s, it's over.
3 1s!
3 1s. I just randomly rolled 3 1s. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I guess we're just going to end it right there.
Nice
Oh, wait.
transition.
No, I should do everybody likes this Star Wars transition.
There you go. All right. And
That's it.
we'll cover the rest of the devs. We still have some other what's new. Maybe we can post them, the links to them in the comments so you guys can see.
Yep.
There's been a lot of new things. We'll also post an infographic. Instagram had an algorithm update this week. So we have an infographic for you that kind of outlines the highlights of that and what that means for you. But yeah, you can check out the links in the articles so you're up to date on everything. And we'll leave you to have a great Friday.
Thanks. All hail the Lizard King. Yes, Aaron.
Yes.
And it's the lizard people. And Andrew Hassan, thank you. Love it. Yes. It's supposed to be no more tears like rips. Okay, you guys got to come back every Friday.
Drinks next week, Andrew, when you're in town.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can do the WhatsApp.
Oh, that's April. Oh, there you go. But he's just visiting.
So that's a no? You just answered for Andrew?
He's having drinks.
He's drinking. We can drink on the stream. There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, guys.
I like how you're casually just exposing this guy's plans on Live with the Hive.
April knows.
She did
we
that.
talked about it today.
I did nothing. I just said maybe he would join us, and then Courtney went like, he'll be here at 4 o'clock, and here's his phone number.
At this time, we're going to this
Andrew,
bar.
you just got doxxed live.
All right, guys.
All right. Have a great